Okay, everybody there? Can you see me? Thumbs up? Good? Okay. Sorry, I don't know, but I'm not touching this again. If it tells me to do something, it's just gonna have to wait. Okay, we are talking about plantain. It's not the banana, by the way, guys. Not the banana, okay? Plantain is a green plant. And it is a perennial. So it'll keep coming back, it'll reseed, you'll have lots of it if you can just get it going somewhere. Most people mow it down, weed whack it, they don't know what it is. And I'm telling you, you want plantain in your yard, in your area somewhere. If you've got a good piece of land, you know, and you've got it out in your, on the outskirts, not necessarily right in your yard, just make sure you have access to it because it is a lifesaver. I have lots of stories. My dog was bit by a copperhead and she swelled up almost immediately. I was an hour away from the vet, but I did have access to plantain. So I pulled some up and chewed on it. I wrapped her nose in it. I plastered it down with a little bentonite clay. Drove like a crazy person to the vet. Long story short, they asked me, I called the next day to see how she was doing, and they said, what was all that stuff on her face? And I told them, and they said, well, we didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to give her antivenom. We didn't have to do anything. We just monitored her vitals. Her kidney function's great. Her heart rate's good. Her blood work was good. She can come home. And I said, well, does that mean that you're not going to charge me? And they said, nope, that'll be $350, please. So, everybody has to make some money somewhere, I guess. But it saved her. It literally saved her. Because I had an hour drive at 80 to get to the vet. I was that far away. And it was 4:30. So I called them up and said, please don't go home. Andy's been bit by a snake and blah, blah. So, plantain saved her. For decades, it has been used to treat many things. Dermatitis, inflamed skin, wounds, coughs. It's very good for coughs. It will treat, like I said before, an insect bite or a sting. It's good for eczema. There's certain types of plantain that are actually used for, like, in mucinex. They have that mucilaginous form. Oh, and there's also the psyllium that's in them that's also good for, like a laxative. So there's like 250 species of plantain. So there's a lot of them, but we're going to talk about the two common ones that you can find anywhere. Health benefits. Okay, we've talked about that, but more specifically, it's anti-inflammatory, it's antibacterial. That's why it's so good for open wounds. And I mean, I have worn so many plantain band-aids, and literally by the end of the day, I've taken that thing off and my thumb will be green, but it'll already be closing up and healing in just a matter of hours. It's a great pain reliever. It's got some analgesic properties to it. It's an immune booster, and it's antifungal. It's got antioxidants in it. You just can't really go wrong with plantain. It's got some bioactive compounds in it, and I can name them off to you, but they're in the documents, so you can just go ahead and read that if you're interested. And they are what produce those anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties. It's even got some properties that are very helpful and healthy for your liver. So a plantain tea is a good tea to drink, or a tincture, tincturing it. I cite a study in here that is good. They found that concentrates of plantain, the extract, are extremely helpful in wound healing. So I had a client a year or two ago who had a mother that was in the hospital, and then she was home and she was completely bedridden. And she said, you know, she's covered with bed sores. I don't know what to do with her. And so I sent her with some plantain spray. And in my plantain spray, I also have aloe, and I have some other things in it. And she came back a couple weeks later, and she was so excited because she, her mom's bed sores healed up. The nurses were going, "What are you doing?" And I mean, you couldn't even touch this woman. She was in so much pain. And so she went in and she was just spraying her with the spray. And in a matter of days, her sores had healed up to the point where she could sit up in bed and she was not crying in pain. I mean, it was a real blessing to hear that, because it was, you know, it gave a quality back to her mom's life. There is the lanceolata and the plantain major. The plantain major, just remember, that's going to be the fat leaves, okay? And the lanceolata looks like a lance, okay? It's long and skinny. And I've given you a little bit of information on each of those. The plantain major was found that amongst the parts of the plantain plant, the seeds exhibited the greatest anti-proliferative activity on tumor cells. So it was actually being used and tested to see how well it worked with cancer tumors and different types of tumors, and it was shrinking them and keeping them from multiplying. The roots exhibited comparable cytokine inhibitors to other kinds of medicine. So, I mean, plantain's everywhere. So, it's one that you want to have around. And if you are tincturing other things, you might just want to add a little plantain in there. If you're making something that's going to be, you know, maybe an antiviral or something like that, you know, just put a little plantain in there. Plantain is also one of the few plants that tinctures actually better fresh. Most things will do as good or sometimes better as a dried herb. It's more concentrated, but the plantain does really well fresh. So you might want to remember that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. It's a cleansing and a detoxifying herb, and it's also really good for respiratory health. So are you hearing anything here? I mean, we know that we're facing viruses and different illnesses now that are attacking all of these kinds of things in our bodies. So this is a simple thing. It's everywhere. I think it's probably even in Montana. Hi, Jordan. In fact, I know it is. You just have to look for the right kind. But plantain could possibly save your life in many different ways. It would be something, if you're a hiker, that you would want to maybe carry some fresh, but maybe also just make yourself a tincture and take that tincture with you, because you could actually just take the tincture and squirt it onto a wound. Or if you were stung by something or bit by something, you could take it internally as well. So I'm just going to say you need to put plantain at the top of your list. It is one that it's good for asthma. It's good for viral type things, bronchitis, colds. All of those things we've learned in the past few weeks are viral. And I mean, like colds and that kind of stuff. So if you don't have anything else handy, plantain could cover a lot of bases. So that's why I wanted to start with this one. It's also a really good, there was a few studies done. There's something called mucocystis that is an oral infection that a lot of people that have chemotherapy get. And so they did some work with plantain, with the plantain extract as a mouth swish, and then also taking it internally to eradicate some of the things going on inside. And they had really good success. I cited that study in here too for you. It's an oncology study. So it's got a lot of good research. It's a really, really good herb. It's very anti-cancer. It's antiviral. And it's easy, super easy. So before you go weed whacking and mowing your yard, please go out and search for the plantain plants. Go around them. And remember, when you're harvesting, well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay. So identification is easy, and when you look at the pictures on the documents, you'll be able to see for yourself how easy it will be. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that. And you know, most of the time they're in high traffic areas. They like grow in cracks in sidewalks or in rock walkways, or you know, they don't have to have pristine, great soil. They'll grow anywhere. So that's why I said, keep looking. You will find plantain. I know you will. Hi, Tina. What can I do with plantain? All right, we talked a little bit about an ointment or a salve, and we've talked about a tincture. Now, I like tinctures because they're pretty versatile. You can make a spray with a tincture. Like I told you, my spray that I make has aloe, and I put a little black walnut in there, and I've got some lavender in there, and I've got different things in my spray. And you are, you know, that's totally your choice what you want to add. A little witch hazel, you know, but you can make a good concentrated spray that will be a disinfectant because it's made with your tincture that's made with alcohol. So it's kind of one-stop shopping that way. I like it as a spray. But I'll tell you what, I got bit by a spider, and it was on the back of my leg. And I live alone. It was like, I can't spray this thing. I would try to spray it with my spray, and I'd have to put my bottle upside down, and my bottle wouldn't spray, and it was stupid. I couldn't see what I was doing. It would run down my leg. So I thought, well, okay. So I made myself an ointment with plantain in it, and that way I could feel with my finger, and I can apply it right on there. And in a matter of days, sucked all those toxins out, and I don't even have a scar where my spider bite was. So I love plantain because it does give you confidence, especially if you're in the woods and you're in the country a lot. But you know what? You can live in the city and get a spider bite. So, or a wasp or a bee or, you know, anything. Mosquito bites. I read something just today that said that they have genetically modified mosquitoes that they're ready to turn loose. And I'm thinking, I feel like I live in a sci-fi movie, you know? It's like every time you turn around, there's something else going on. Whether or not that's true, plantain will still work. So all the more reason to make sure you can identify and use your plantain wherever it is. And if you don't have any, get some. Either find somebody who's got some and ask for a couple plants, or order some plants, or order some seeds, or do whatever you need to do, but get plantain in your life. As near as I can tell, it'll grow pretty much anywhere. I'm not sure how much it likes like real tropical areas, only because of the temperatures, but you know, make it a house plant. I don't know, but they'll get really big. I had one that I wanted to take a picture of and show you guys tonight, and I went out there to get it, and I waited too late, and the deer ate it. So they left me a few leaves, but that was about it. So I went ahead and harvested what I could and put it in a tincture. But it was this big. It was this huge plantain plant. And so it likes, and they like cold weather, but they grow all summer here, which, you know, it can get 30-digit temps up here. So it'll grow pretty much anywhere. You can adapt it. And like I said, if you've got extreme weather, bring it in the house, or, You know, make it a house plant, but grow yourself some plantain, and you will not be sorry. Okay, so we have tinctures, we have salves. We can turn tinctures into sprays. You can also dry plantain and make it a tea. And a tea is very beneficial for a lot of things that we talked about. You could eat it fresh in a salad. It's good. It's really good. The spring greens, you know, when they first come up, and throw some plantain in there. So it is an extremely cleansing, detoxing, healing herb, internally and externally. For a long time, actually, if you look into some of the old herbals, like Culpepper's herbal and some of the others, you'll see where it was called by the Native Americans, it was called white man's foot, because everywhere that the white man went, plantain grew. And it's because they brought it with them, and they would throw the seeds out, and they would, you know, that was one of their medicines. And so, you know, consequently, it's everywhere. It's East Coast, West Coast, in the middle of the country, you name it, you can find plantain. It's the white man's foot. But that's probably a racist comment right now, so scratch that. But it is in the herbals, and that's what the Native Americans used to call it, because wherever the settlers went, there was always plantain. It's a side note. Okay, so you could make, if you wanted to make a salve or an ointment, you would need to infuse oil. And I'm going to give you a really quick how-to on how to do this, and then we will be done for tonight. So, to make a tincture, and this is in your document, so you don't have to try to remember it, okay? But you will need at least 80 proof. I use vodka. And you'll need a clean jar, like a quart jar. You'll need an airtight lid for that jar, and you'll need your herb. It's not a big supply list here. I'm not going to go into all of the official terminology for all of that, but that's what you need. Okay, there are some measurements and proportions that are kind of important, because if you don't, you'll have too weak or you'll have too strong. Sometimes you don't get enough extraction if you don't have enough herb. So for a tincture, you want to fill your jar 2/3 full with fresh herb. Break it up and make sure it's in small enough pieces. You might want to use a little mortar and pestle if you have it. You don't have to, you don't have to make it juicy and runny. Just, break it up and bruise it. Fill the jar 2/3 full with the herb, and then fill it to the top with alcohol. Make sure there's no air, okay? Put the lid on it, shake it, and then get some kind of, I use painter's tape because I do this a lot, and date it and put what's in there. Because trust me, if you do enough of this, like I do, after a little while, they all kind of look the same. And you will not remember. So put a date and put a name on there, what you've got in there, okay? You're going to want to shake it every day, all right? To make an oil, you'll need cold-pressed organic olive oil is what I use, a clean jar with an airtight lid, and dried herb. You don't want to use fresh herb because there's water content, and you don't want water in your oil. It'll make it go bad quickly. It'll turn, okay? So, dried herb for that. And you will fill your jar again about half full with dried herbs. And make sure they're really, really dry. And then top it to the top with your oil. And put the lid on and shake it well, and stick your label on there with your date. Dates are important. And I'll tell you why. Because you're going to shake this at least once every day for at least 3 weeks. Okay? So now people understand a little bit more about what I do constantly. I'm constantly making stuff because it takes at least 3 weeks to process oils and tinctures. Mine usually go much longer than that, but I have a parameter that I don't just let it go forever. But I do like active immune processes for 4 months. And so I have to constantly be starting stuff like that. Otherwise, when you guys call me and say I need active immune, I won't have any. I'll say, well, I got like a month and a half left until it's ready. So I try to stay on top of it. But shake it every day, and you want it to be macerating for at least 3 weeks. Now a tincture needs to go into a cool, dark place. An oil needs to go into a warm place. So I stick my oils in my kitchen window. I stick my tinctures on a cabinet behind a dark curtain. And that's where they live. Okay? And then after your 3-week time is up, or however long you want to let it go, you are going to strain it. I use I use muslin bags, and strain it real good until the herb is dry. You know, you've just gotten everything out of it that you can into a clean jar, preferably an amber jar, something dark, and cap that and label it again. All right? And you would do the same with your oil. So when you want to create a salve or a rubbing oil, you're going to use your oil, and you're going to combine it with beeswax. There's a proportion thing with that too, and process it as a salve. We'll probably go into that in another session. I can't tell you all of that right now, but in order to make a salve, you need an oil. So if that's what you're thinking you want to do, then you need to start your oil processing. In about 3 weeks, you'll be ready to make a salve, and we'll talk about it. So you can always learn more about this in some of my classes that I teach at National Park College. If you guys are in this area, I will be starting those back up again in September, if all goes well. And I also have other opportunities for you to learn, so there's more if you want it. But those of you that don't live by me, watch for my book, because it will be coming out, and it will have all of this kind of information and more in it, so that you will have details, and you'll have ratios, and you'll have dosages. You know, how much should I give myself, or how much do I give my dog, or how much do I give my 2-year-old? So those are the kinds of things that will be coming out in the book that I'm working on. So does anybody have any other questions before we say goodbye for tonight? The picture is so cute. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hard to see with the light from my thing. No, you can't really see it. Very cute, and I always say thank you so much to Mandy for doing these. They're adorable, and to me they're treasures. I keep every single one of them. They get stapled with my papers, and I keep them. Yes, I am doing a book, Tina, and I'm excited about it because I've been asked by lots of people to do this for a couple years now, and I just haven't felt motivated. But recently, things are changing, and I'm tackling it. I'm working on it, and it's going to be good. And I'm also, like I said, doing one for kids that I'm almost enjoying more. I really, really like it. The story is going well. And I'm hoping that my daughter-in-law will illustrate it. So it's going to be cute. And it will be a good way to introduce children to herbs, but also to a different way of living. You know, maybe not so dependent on doctors and pharmacies and allergy medicine and inhalers and labels. You know, I've actually met some children that are already there because their parents have exposed them to some really good things. And one little gal, I think she was like 6, maybe, or 7, and she had her own little personal essential oil kit. And so one day I was over there, and she got stung by something. And she said, her grandpa was there, and she said, "It's okay, Papa, I'll be right back." And she comes out with her little oil kit. It's in this cute little bag, and pulled out the one for stings and bites, and she put it on for herself, and she said, "It'll be fine in just a minute." Now, I was like, I watched that whole thing, and I almost busted out crying because it was so neat for me to see the confidence in that little 6-year-old, and the fact that she wasn't afraid. It was fine. She could fix it, and that's what I want for everybody. I want everyone to live like that. And we've grown up with a different set of programming, but we can change that for ourselves, and we can certainly change it for the people coming up behind us, the children of the adults of tomorrow. So that's my vision, and that's my motivation behind what I'm doing. And I welcome any input that you have. If you guys want to send me any tips or suggestions or thoughts on that, that would be great. I'm open to all of that. So that is it for tonight. I hope you guys learned something and gleaned something, and I hope you go out and find some plantain in your yard. And don't spray it with insecticides, and don't whack it down with the weed eater. Let it grow. When you're harvesting, this is one thing I meant to cover, don't ever take the whole plant up. Always leave at least 10%. Don't ever take the whole plant. Take what you need, and if you need a bunch, then take from several plants. But don't scalp one guy and take everything off that plant. Always leave some. And it's a relationship thing. I'll just put it that way, okay? Don't lay waste. It'll come back. You'll get more. And those of you that know me, you've heard my stories. You've heard my stories about asking for mullein and getting it, or really wanting. This year, wild lettuce. I've got it everywhere. I have so much wild lettuce, and it's so exciting. Except the deer like it too. The Google Notes are in the link, the post that happened right before this one. So let me see if I can find that for you. Here it is. Hang on. I'll post it again for those of you. I usually always post it on the We're Live in 5 post. I'll go ahead and repost them here now, and they should be coming up any second. And you can just go follow that link and get the documents for tonight. And every now and then I'll post the open link that's got all of them for all of the weeks that we've been meeting. So let me know if there's anything else particular that you're wanting that you didn't get to get. Alrighty. God bless you guys. I hope you have a great weekend. And thanks for joining me. Love you a bunch. Bye.